Epsie offered to help him with his work, but he declined politely. She told him where she lived, and he promised to return the book the next Saturday morning. As night approached, Ethan walked down a path behind the shops and small houses to the back door of the Pratts' home and entered the kitchen. His father and sisters were at the table, and his mother was preparing to serve supper. "You're late again, Ethan. We were just getting ready to eat." "I've been in the new garden. I only have a couple of hours each day after the shop closes to work in it." His father said, "You're not like Henry was. He always wanted to stay in the shop as long as he could." Ethan decided not to reply. Although his older brother Henry was the one who seemed to be interested in his father's trade and loved to be at the shoemaker's bench, the making and repairing of shoes and other leather goods just made possible the camaraderie and political discussions with customers and loungers that Henry really loved. He worked rapidly and with great skill, but despised taking orders and keeping records. Henry planned to travel to Norfolk, Virginia, and later to settle in western North Carolina, where he'd read that a number of Quakers had established new homes. He shared his plans only with Ethan. Ethan was the youngest child, born in 1745, 2 years later than his brother. He had little love for either the work or the talk of the shoemaker's shop. He realized that when his brother left home, he would be expected to become his father's apprentice. For years, Ethan had enjoyed working behind their shop in a small garden plot, only about twice the size of their kitchen table. He had experimented with various kinds of seeds and cultivation practices, and was proud when his vegetables helped supplement the family's diet. When Saturday morning came, he had finished planting his new and larger garden and was strangely excited as he walked toward the Nishman's house. He knocked timidly on the door, which was immediately snatched open by Epsie. She introduced him to her parents and grandmother. Her father, Georg, asked Ethan how he had liked the book. "Very much. It has the kind of information I've always wanted, but didn't even know was written down anywhere." They moved into the library, a small room with walls covered by bookshelves filled with stacked magazines, old newspapers, and carefully arranged books. "I inherited many of these from my father, and the church has furnished me with others. You are welcome to come here any time you wish." After that, Ethan visited the Nishman home often, and he and Epsie explored the library together. Although their motivations were unrelated, their involvement in farming overlapped, because the Moravians were dedicated to sharing agricultural knowledge with native populations in the Caribbean islands and the more western regions of the colonies. Epsie was soon working with Ethan in his garden, and Mr. Nishman helped them locate different varieties of seeds and seedlings with which Ethan had not been familiar. Epsie didn't talk much, which suited Ethan well, but they communicated without restraint on the management of the vegetable plots. Neither Ethan nor Epsie had many friends, and both families obviously welcomed their growing friendship. Their courtship was just a series of small, evolutionary steps of shared experiences, mostly involving the study of botany and geography and the planting and cultivation of the garden. The next summer, it seemed natural to everyone when they decided to marry. That summer, Henry Pratt announced his intentions to leave home after Christmas. Ethan and Epsie married 2 weeks after his departure, and they moved in with the Nishmans. Ethan continued helping his father in the shoemaker's shop and received a small salary that was enough to meet his new family's needs. One day, Mr. Pratt surprised Ethan by offering him a larger portion of the profits and telling him that he would someday own the shop. But Ethan replied that he and Epsie planned to join Henry as soon as he was settled in North Carolina. The Pratts were disappointed and angry, but Epsie's father was delighted with the decision. The Nishmans were happy for their daughter and son-in-law to be living and perhaps doing missionary work in the back country. 1765. When Henry Pratt left Philadelphia, he took with him only what he could carry on his back: his clothes, some shoemaker's tools and supplies, and 43 silver Spanish pieces of 8 he had been able to save during the previous 5 years. His ultimate goal was to settle in North Carolina, but he was not in a hurry. He decided to spend a few months in Norfolk, Virginia, and because of his skills as a shoemaker, he was offered a job at the most successful shoemaker's shop. To minimize his living expenses, Henry made arrangements with a nearby family to share 2 simple but ample meals each day, and got permission from his employer to set up a folding cot at night.